requesting once again to please be seated. Thank you so much for joining us back, and thank you so much. I hope this was a very power-packed and knowledgeable sessions that we have all contributed out here. Well, let's move ahead for the next panel discussion. The regulatory framework for MSME refers to the set of rules, regulations, and policies established by government to govern and support the operations of micro, small, and medium enterprises. Well, that's not all, but despite many policies, initiatives, and regulations, there are many constraints to MSME finance sectors. Let's put some light on same and the next panel discussion. The topic belongs to how finance regulatory framework affects MSMEs. Well, to do the honors of inviting the panel, I shall request now the moderator, Mr. Shaji Kuriakose, business coach, action coach. Can we have you on stage as a moderator? Can we have a huge round of applause, everybody? Come on, I think we have a very amazing meals, and this is a time to show some energy out here. Well, he shall be moderating this panel out here, but the discussion, the panelists which we'll be having on board will be Dushyant, Mr. Dushyant, the Secretary of MSME Promotion Council. Can we have a huge round of applause? Mr. Shaji, I'll request you to please come over on the board, on the desk. And joining them on stage will be Mr. Pratik Kandagle, Real Inc. Can we have a huge round of applause for him as well? And joining them on stage will be Kaushik Chandra, business coach, action coach. Well, I really want everybody that we have had a very scrumptious meal. Can we have a huge round of applause for another power-packed and very informative and educative panel discussion happening out here? I'll request Mr. Shaji to please take it forward from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome everybody, and especially to the panelists on the show. The topic, as you all heard, it's about financial regulatory systems that affect SMEs. So we have a little bit of constraint on the time, so I'll just start. Can I request each of you to first introduce yourselves, please?
Is it necessary? Because she has already introduced. So let's come to the topic again. It's not required, I guess.
All right.
Yeah. It's like
Hello, I am Pratik Khandagale. I'm a civil engineer and I work for Realink and Stallion Buildtech. So Stallion Buildtech is a construction management software, and Realink is a news app where we educate people about the construction sector. With that, I'm also a published author and poet. So this is all about myself.
So Kaushik, would like to say something? Kaushik, you're already aware of who he is. He's been on the panel before. So the first question I would like to ask, I'll keep it open. Anybody who would like to answer that is, what are the key regulations that specifically apply to MSMEs? If any one of you can take that.
it's like key regulations in part of what, like, see, MSME, first we need to understand what is MSME.
Right.
It is not a target or a specific sector organizations. MSMEs are there in the entire industry. You can go for petroleum, you have it. Even if you in real estate, you have it everywhere.
Right.
So I don't think there is a particular specific regulation as if for an MSME. Besides, there is a framework that has been enhanced by the government of central government recently, that the turnover bases are there to define them.
Correct.
Because that is the only parameter whether you want to be an MSME, either an organization is an MSME or not. Right. Besides that, there is no particular regulations, I guess. But for specific industry, you might be having certain norms, certain licensing, something kind of frameworks. Those are being implied to them.
Okay. Would like to add something?
With regards to finance, there are a few schemes which the RBI has brought up. Now, RBI has mandated the banks to allot 40% of their total lending capacity to priority sector lending. And MSMEs are a huge chunk of it.
Absolutely.
Then we have a scheme by SEBI, which is hand-holding MSMEs to launch IPOs so that they can raise money from the public. Then there are schemes like interest subvention schemes where MSMEs can avail loan facilities at very low interest rates. Also, we have scheme like the Prime Minister's Employment Generation Scheme.
Right.
Recently, in the budget, this year's budget, I think around 9,000 crore rupees were allotted towards MSMEs, which is a very huge boost.
I would like to
MSME.
interrupt that because the amount which is said is very low.
Yeah,
The total amount which is given to MSMEs for this budget is 3 lakh crore rupees
sorry.
for revamping of MSMEs,
Revamp.
which is been given by SIDBI. And more than that, approximately 20,000 crore rupees are been given to the ministry for the various schemes that have been run by the Honorable Ministry.
Yeah, that is true. We also have a self-reliant scheme. The main purpose of this scheme, it is a fund of funds. So it has daughter funds where it allocates funds for sector-specific MSMEs. The main aim of the scheme is to make MSMEs so big that they go beyond the level of MSMEs at a national and an international level. So these are a few schemes related to finance which help MSMEs in the long run.
I just want to add some point out here. I mean, there are so many schemes, floated by the government. I mean, if you see the chronology of, schemes coming up every year and then being followed up by different banks. But the only one thing I would, point out here that probably the MSME and the SME sectors are not actually informed or may not be educated by a proper channel. Because people, when they go to the systems, the financial systems, they actually go weird about it. They don't know what to do about it, unless and until they are guided by some people who may not be the right person. Because we at Action Coach, we are working with MSMEs and SMEs, you know it very well, where we always found this problem. Yes, we know these things are there, but we don't know where to actually get it. The right information is basically a right information, right to information. But probably we don't have that right to information from a proper channel. This is one of the important things, actually. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you. So I think we are all aware, right, that we are looking at a 5 trillion kind of an economy going forward. And one of the important things within that space is the MSME space, which we're looking at around 1 trillion by 2028. So one of the most important pillars of any business is finance, right? And as far as the MSMEs are concerned, there are certain rules and regulations, especially if you take an example of payments. Anybody would like to touch upon that?
When it comes to finance, the basic problem of MSMEs is lack of access to capital.
Absolutely.
Because there is no collateral, they don't have a credit history. So on government's part, we can work on making these regulations less stringent so that it helps MSMEs. Also, use of digitization by bringing everything on a centralized platform so that with one click, every information about a particular company or a particular startup can be accessed from anywhere. So that can be the cash flow, that can be their profit and all the compliances and everything. So this in turn would, help us to instill some confidence in the investors, not only the, the traditional investment that is banks, but we have VCs or angel investors to look towards MSMEs. Because most of the angel investors, they only invest in all the tech companies. And in MSMEs, people are very skeptical. So digitization of the finance and all the regulations is one thing which can boost our MSMEs.
I would take the topic somewhere, like it'll be somewhere different to what the aspect that we are speaking to right away, but it has to be addressed.
Sure.
So, see, the room of expansion for MSMEs is tremendous.
Absolutely.
The total loan exposure which is given to the MSME is less than 10%. It is beyond, it's below 5%, but I am saying less than 10% on an whatever executed data you can say. But then also, it is less than 10%. But MSMEs control more than 33% of the GDP of country. And more than 35% of the export of this country.
Correct.
Whereas the topmost 10 brands of this country, whosoever it may be, the big houses, they only give a contribution of 30%.
Yeah.
Now, as per United Nations, because we were having this MSME Day on 26th of June, so the things were there, the things were moving on in the entire world. As per United Nations, in coming 10 next years, MSME sector would be a game changer player for the rural and urban employment, economical growth, and exports to any country. So now that is why Indian government is particularly focusing on growth of MSMEs. Now if I come up to the point of awareness and the lack of, there is an entry barrier that I admit, that there is an entry barrier if we go, one person tries for first time, second time, third time, and after some time he just sit back at his home and that he's not going to get it. But this is not the case of everywhere. I'll just give you a very small example of an Indian Post Payment Bank. There is this lady who used to take 10,000 rupees per day on interest from a local person. And she was giving 10% of that as an interest per day. So now she is giving 30,000 rupees as interest and she is earning at least 20%. That is why she is able to pay 10% as an interest. Now taking 9,000 rupees per day, paying 10,000 rupees per day, approximately 30,000 rupees per day, she is just paying the interest. Now after digitalization, because I want to support this cause and literally want to take the thing that unless you go for digitalization now, unless the things are digital, you won't be able to get any success. So that is why I'm again coming back to story. She started receiving funds from QR code and she maintained a Jan Dhan account. Now she was earning approximately, she was having a turnover of 3 lakh rupees per month because 10,000 rupees per day she was selling vegetables and all those things. So now she is having a loan of 1 lakh rupees from bank at an interest of 8% per annum, plus she is having her own home with a collateral, and now she is applied for a collateral loan for that, and now she is the owner of a 25 lakh rupees property, and the same amount 30,000 she is paying as an EMI. So there things comes up. It is like you have to go to the people, you have to tell them that this is the thing that we are going on. And now I'm just taking 2 minutes more, but I want to bring this to the notice of the people, those sitting over here, and the people, those who would be accessing the seminar later on also. But yes, MSME Promotion Council comes up in the picture that we are an entrepreneur-based organization. First of all, okay, we are associated with government influence is there, everything are there, we are working with them also. But yes, we are you can say a platform where we connect everybody on a single window. And same way, I think Saurabh is also developing a network. It's called MSME network. MSME Circle. We're coming up with that also very soon. The development part is there, so it will be a Facebook for MSMEs. Whatever you need, you're just a click away. So whatever you need, wherever you need, just post it. Government will come to you, and I'm like glad to inform you that we are getting support from every government, whether it is state government or central government. They are ready to help you. They are coming to you, and coming to the collateral part, till 30 crore rupees. 30 crores for an MSME is not a small amount. Till 30 crore rupees, SIDBI has got certain schemes in which they can take your equity and they can give you funds for that. And for MSME especially, 5 crore rupees is the limit, upper limit, which is kept for without collateral loans. So these are the things which are not aware to people even.
This is specifically for MSMEs.
This is specifically for MSMEs.
Excellent.
So this is where I was coming to actually. These informations are actually not in the
Public domain.
public domain.
Absolutely.
So when people go to address this or find out where to get it, they don't find the right people, right? And everybody does not come to these type of forums also. They have got certain limitations on their own, which for their own interest, right? So how these informations can be open to the domain of the MSMEs is very important today.
So I
I'll
think,
come back to that. That is why I told you that we are making entrepreneurs organization. Now what we are doing is we are appointing state councils. There will be a state chairman and an organization beneath him will be the entrepreneurs organization. So that we are able to reach till the districts and we can, there is an entry barrier at a lower point. Anybody who's got something has bypass channels. But a person who's living in a village or in a district, he is not having any bypass channel. So now that entry barrier has to be crossed on and there has to be a concrete road which creates a bypass. So that is what we are trying to build.
perfect. So I think the MSME circle would also help in this cause of creating awareness, more awareness for the MSMEs. Coming back to my question about the 45 days payment for MSMEs. Anybody has anything to say about that?
For this 45 days payment, there is a MSME Samadhan portal.
Right.
And this portal, it encourages entrepreneurs to lodge complaints if they do not get their payments in 45 days. And also, I guess I read somewhere that if you don't, without an agreement, there's no agreement, or if it's not specifically mentioned in the agreement, and if you don't get your payment in 45 days, I think the big companies or the people who who owe the payment, they'll have to pay some 3 times the interest and something of that sort.
Absolutely. So in the finance document of 2023, 45 days is the bare minimum time frame given for payments to MSMEs. And if there is nothing mentioned in your contract with whoever is supposed to pay you, they have to pay you within 15 days by default. So these are some of the things on the banking and finance regulatory sides that I was talking about. Anything specific related to, we see a lot of women entrepreneurs and MSMEs, anything specific to them, any specific regulations?
There are certain schemes that ministry is working with. They're like, even they're encouraging women entrepreneurs. There are subsidies, there are loan advantages. There are n numbers of schemes. I think it will be a never-ending process if we start it over here, because there is 108-page catalog. You can just go to msmepci.com, you can download it. And there are more than thousands of schemes of central government. And if you go for state government, there are more than 10,000 schemes. So it's like you got to get to the right channel and access them. I'd just like to conclude it over here only.
All right, thank you very much. So coming back to one of the important points we were talking about is finance is one of the key pillars of any business. Managing finance is a very, very important aspect. And knowing everything about what's happening in that space is important. So that's why we thought of having this panel and discussing this with you. Thank you, everybody, for being on the panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Requesting all the gentlemen to please be on the panel. Now I shall request Mr. Saurabh to please come on board and felicitate our moderator for this panel. Thank you, panelists. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you, Mr. Dushyant. Thank you, Mr. Prateek. Thank you, Mr. Kaushik.